and welcome to my audio short story channel. Today's story is Bee Sting. Carrie Dixon desperately wants to be done with her fear of allergies and germs. She courageously decides to visit a botanical garden with her roommate, and just as she's beginning to relax and enjoy herself, it seems as though her worst fears come to pass, until she meets a shining man who changes everything. Enjoy the story, and I will see you at the end. And remember to come back next week when I share insights and thoughts about today's story. Enjoy the story. Bee Sting, a short story by Janet Keller Richards, copyright 2024, all rights reserved. Visiting a giant flower garden may not feel like a death sentence to anyone else, but I'm positive the pollen count alone will be high enough to send me to an early grave. Not to mention the sightseers, who will be completely unaware of how carelessly they're spreading their germs and viruses. Carrie, hay fever isn't life-threatening. You'll be all right. I surface from my mental pit of negativity to see my roommate Molly staring at my frowning face. My mask is slipping, so I pull it back up over my mouth and say unconvincingly, "I know, I took an allergy pill. I'll be fine." As we get out of the car and walk toward the botanical gardens, my chest starts to feel like a refrigerator is sitting on top of it. Since we've just arrived, I know the tightness is from anxiety and not from a pollen reaction. I hitch up my backpack full of every germ-fighting weapon I possess and try to turn my thoughts away from all the invisible dangers lurking in the air. Molly's mouth twists into a perturbed slant and she shakes her head. With all your talk about how great your God is, why are you so afraid? My personal struggles have pushed my roommate's buttons again. Molly and I are as different as chocolate and vanilla, as salt and pepper. She's as healthy as a horse, while I always seem to be fighting some kind of infection monster. She's the adventurous type and works as a gorilla trainer at the zoo. I work remotely, and if I can help it, I never go out of the house. And at age 15, when Molly's dad walked out on her and her mom for good, she stopped following God. When my dad died of lung disease around the same time, it drove me to God. But Molly and I have been friends since childhood, and that's the glue that holds us together. We know each other better than we know some of our own family members. So even though I didn't expect her off-putting question, I didn't get put off by it. She has a right to ask, because I am a Christian, and it makes no sense that fear is so crippling in my life. I shrug and answer her. Honestly, Molly, I've been asking God to take away my fear or show me how to deal with it. I know He will answer me, but sometimes it takes a while. Molly raises an eyebrow in disbelief. Yep, that must be it. Come on, I say with cheerfulness I don't feel. Let's go before I lose my courage. I force myself to start walking toward the entrance, and Molly follows my lead. We pay and walk through the breezeway to the gardens. Both of us stop and stare. Stretching out before us is a sidewalk lined on both sides by flowering peony bushes with the most vibrant magenta blooms I've ever seen. "It's so beautiful," Molly says excitedly. Even though my chest still feels like it's under that refrigerator, I have to admit, the view is stunning. We walk down the sidewalk, which soon opens up to hundreds of flower varieties meticulously arranged by color and height. I am amazed. Whoever laid out these flower plots did a fantastic job. All of my roommate's earlier irritation is gone, and enthusiasm spills out of her smiling voice. With your eye for design, I just knew you'd love it here, Carrie. I'm so glad you came. I wouldn't be here without your encouragement, or badgering, I say with a grin. Thank you for pushing me. Molly answers, "You're welcome," and prances down the sidewalk. I'm starting to relax and enjoy myself. As I catch up to my roommate, I make a conscious decision to focus for the rest of the day on all the beauty around me and not on pollen or germs. Molly, let's take a photo. We stop and take a couple of shots of the two of us standing next to the rich magenta of the peonies. I turn toward two patches of snow-white phlox and purple-bearded irises. They are so delicate and beautiful. Snapping a close-up of an iris, I say quietly, God, I am totally wowed by your creativity. Stepping closer, I lean down to take a shot of one spectacular iris that has deep violet petals. A sharp pain hits my ankle, and I feel a second pain hit my hand. Insects begin flying all around me, and I panic. Bees! I've been stung by bees! I take off running down the sidewalk. Molly races after me. When she catches up, she pulls on my arm to slow me down. Carrie, they're gone now. Let's sit down and look at your bee stings. I stop and let her lead me over to a nearby bench. I wonder if my panic is causing me to hyperventilate because I'm a little dizzy and I can't seem to get enough air. Molly takes a look at the stings on my ankle and hand. Have you ever been stung by a bee before? I shake my head and run my tongue over my lips. They feel fat and tight. All my skin is getting tight. I don't feel so great, I say. She takes a look at my face and starts making a phone call. Leaning back on the bench, I close my eyes to concentrate on breathing, which by now is all I can think about. It feels like I'm suffocating. The last thing I hear is Molly yelling at the top of her lungs, "Is there a doctor nearby?" And then I faint. Soon I'm looking at a body slumped down across the bench. It could be my body, but nothing makes sense because I'm above it and I'm looking down. My roommate and a man are stooped over the body. Over my body, I think. I move upward toward outer space. I'm traveling fast, rushing toward an expanse of light that is 1,000,000 times brighter than the sun, but doesn't hurt my eyes. Suddenly I'm standing inside the light, which I can feel is pulsating with life. I look down at my own being and then all around. The light is everywhere. It's even inside me. I watch as the form of a glowing man walks out from the center of the light. As he approaches me, I know instinctively he is the source of the light. I recognize him, not from pictures or paintings I've seen, but because I just know he is Jesus. Overflowing kindness pours from his face and his eyes. He smiles at me, and I am captivated, filled with a total and profound conviction. I know that I know that I know I am deeply loved. I want to stay forever inside his absolute, overwhelming love. Jesus looks at me and says gently, "You know I'm always with you, Carrie." There is absolutely no judgment in the way he says it, but I realize he's correcting my wrong thinking about the way I've perceived him. I guess I never really understood that before, I say truthfully. Looking down at the light inside my own being, my mind finally grasps that he is in me and through me and all around me. "Thank you," I say. His vibrant eyes soften and he acknowledges my thankfulness with a wide smile. "When you go back," he says, "things will be different." Blinking in surprise, I quickly clarify, "But I want to stay here." He nods. "One day when the time is right, you will come back to live here, but not now." "But I belong here." With great affection, he says, "You do belong here." Then he gestures with his hands to the light all around us. "But just like I'm with you now, Carrie, I will be with you on earth." I lower my eyes to stare at the intensity of the light shining through me and then look up again into his face. "I don't want to go back," I say honestly, "but if you say so, I'll go." "That's my girl," he grins. "Thank you for trusting me. You and I have some important adventures to experience before you come back to live here permanently." "We do?" I raise my eyebrows in surprise because I've never, ever seen myself as the adventurous type. Jesus laughs and answers with complete and total assurance. "You will love every one of them, I promise." I start to feel the tiniest bit of excitement about the idea of having adventures together. And then a force begins to pull me away from him, back toward the deep blue-black space, back toward the body and the bench and the people below me. And then I feel a sharp pain in my chest. I open my eyes to see a man staring down at me. Relief spreads across his face, and I hear him say, "She's back!" And someone close by starts to sob. I'm exhausted, so I close my eyes again. There are vague conversations and noises all around me as medical people lift my body and then strap it tight to some sort of gurney. But all I want to do is sleep. The next time I open my eyes, I'm lying back against a raised bed in a hospital room. Molly is sitting in a chair to my left. Her face is tight with worry. I roll my head toward her. "Hi." She looks at me. Her eyes fill with water. "Hi." "I guess I'm allergic to bees," I say. It hurts to smile, so I only manage a small one. Tears roll down Molly's cheeks. She wipes them away with a sleeve. "I thought you were going to die." "It wasn't my time," I say. And then I remember standing in front of Jesus. I must have died and gone to heaven. "Molly, did I stop breathing?" Her eyes grow big and round, and she nods. "They had to use a defibrillator to bring you back." Now my eyes grow big. I start to tell her about heaven, but before I get the chance to say anything, I hear the bluster of my mother's voice out in the hallway. A second later, she storms into the room, her mask askew. Her eyebrows pull together, and underneath them I see panic-filled eyes of fear. "Sweetheart, look at you! Your face is all swollen, and you've got a horrible rash!" She gasps and then adds, "And your poor mouth!" I reach up to feel my lips and wince in pain. They're cracked and sore. Now I understand why it hurts to smile. "Hi, Mom, how are you?" I ask. "How am I? I'm terrible. This is all my fault. I had no idea you were allergic to bees." She repositions her mask and keeps her distance from me. I know it's because she doesn't want to give me germs. And, of course, she doesn't want to get germs either. Pulling out an antiseptic wipe, Mom de-germs a chair and then sits down. Her eyes narrow and she glares at my roommate. "Whose lunatic idea was it to go to the botanical gardens in the first place?" Molly's eyebrows pinch together with guilt, and she looks down at her lap to avoid eye contact. "Mom, leave her alone. I agreed to go, and we were having a great time. You should have seen the purple-bearded irises. They were beautiful." My mother turns her accusing eyes toward me. "And where is your mask? Why aren't you wearing it?" I shrug. I don't know. And that's when I realize I don't want to wear a mask anymore. It strikes me as funny, and I start laughing. But my lips hurt when I laugh, so I use my fingers to try and keep them in a narrow, pouty shape, which makes me laugh even harder. Ow! It hurts! I try not to laugh anymore. Mom and Molly are both looking at me like I have two heads, like they want to know where I've hidden the real Carrie Dixon, the one who would normally be searching frantically for a mask to wear. Of course, that makes me laugh again until mucus starts coming out of my nose. I catch it in my hand so it won't drip all over me. "Oops! Molly, can you please hand me a couple of tissues?" Passing the box my way, Molly gapes at me. Her eyes are huge. I take the box and pull out a chunk of tissues and then wipe my hands and my nose clean. My roommate's mouth is still hanging wide open. "What are you looking at?" I ask. She shakes her head. "You didn't wipe down the tissue box before you touched it. You're not interested in wearing a mask, and you aren't horrified that your snot might get germs all over your hands." I glance over at my mom, who is having a momentary meltdown. She's pulled out a piece of paper from her purse and is fanning herself and leaning back against the wall as if she's going to faint. But I know she'll be okay. I smile a tiny smile at both of them. "I'm not afraid anymore," I say. "I can see that," Molly says as she motions with her hands for me to continue with an explanation. So I tell her everything I experienced in heaven, about the light and the warm liquid love that poured through me, and about talking to Jesus. When I finish, I look at her. He was amazing. Molly is staring at me with a deer caught in the headlights kind of look, as if she doesn't know what to say. I nod my head in agreement. I know, it's incredible. Water starts brimming over and rolling down my roommate's cheeks again, but I'm pretty sure this time they aren't sad tears. "He answered my prayer, too," I say. She asks quietly, "What prayer?" I shrug and grin. "No more fear." She sits back and nods, and her face fills with quiet wonder. Then I look over at Mom again. I can tell she was listening because, though her eyes still carry fear, I can also see a spark of curiosity in them. "Don't worry, Mom," I reassure her. "Jesus said I won't die until it's my time, and I believe him. And besides, it's amazing over there." I yawn because I'm still feeling pretty low on energy. "Well, since I'm going to be around for a long time, do you two mind if I take a nap? I'm having trouble staying awake." Molly glances at my mom and then looks back at me. "We'll go get something to eat and talk about you until we come back in an hour." "I hope it's all good," I say with a tiny grin so my cracked lips won't burn. They both stand, and as they're leaving, I hear my mother whisper to Molly, "Do you really think she went to heaven and saw Jesus?" As they walk out the door, Molly answers with a quiet conviction, "I do." I break out into a smile because of what I'm hearing, which makes the cracks on my lips burn, and I say, "Ow!" and try hard to stop smiling, at least on the outside. I close my eyes. I can tell he's here. His beautiful heavenly light is shining everywhere. I'm filled with a sublime awareness that for the rest of my adventurous life, he is in me and with me and through me. "Thank you," I whisper. And for the first time since I can remember, I sink into a deep sleep that holds no fear. Thank you for listening. I would love to hear your impressions of today's story, so please leave a comment below and tell me what you thought. Also, if you like the stories on this channel, you will absolutely love my allegorical novel, The Other Side of Visible. It's a story of two worlds, two orphans, and two pathways. Click the link in the description below to read a free excerpt of that book and also to read readers' reviews. That's it for today. I will see you next week when I share thoughts and insights about today's story. Until then, God's peace be with you and your family.